All right. Hi, I'm Matt Snyder, and
Hi, I'm Daphne.
Hi, Daphne.
and it's great to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Yeah, so really appreciate having the opportunity to do a little powwow with you, a little chai and chat, if you will.
Chai and chat. I just saw a sign with coffee and conversation. So this is chai and chat.
Something like that.
Yeah.
This is the Indian version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, questions that I thought of that I was hoping to talk with you about was really trying to understand how important music has been for you in terms of healing some of the wounds that you've had over the years, and overcoming the obstacles that you've faced in your life. When you think about your music now, do you feel it's primarily about devotion? Is it about reflection, celebration, or something else? Mm-hmm. So that was one of them.
Okay. What's your question? And we'll open up the conversation.
My question was, if you could perform with a musician or a band, alive or dead, with Chalisa, who would that be and why?
Ah. All right, let's see what happens. So, music has always been very important to me. I mean, as a kid, always very important. I used to walk home from school and I would sing the walk home. Oh, there's a bird, there's a tree, and I'm walking on the street, and there's another bird. You know, it was like a stream of consciousness kind of. So it's always been very important. And the thing that changed everything and made it even more important was when I got to India and I heard chanting. And I recognized that this was a spiritual practice that could save my life, that could change, that was a practice that I could do, that I could give myself to. I'd given myself to music, and all it done was get me more fucked up. How many times can you sing, my girlfriend left me, I feel so bad, I think I'll have a drink and call my dad. Anyway, so, you know, and so this was something else. This was music that was in the service of something deeper, other than emotional expression or seduction or manipulation of yourself or others. You know, it was really different that way. The vibe was different. And I just went, like this. So, you know, that was, and so when people ask me a lot about, you know, the music, I say, music is good. Music is wonderful. It brings great pleasure. And that pleasure can help you calm down. It can sharpen the mind. It can help you pay attention and concentrate. But that music doesn't plant seeds of anything beyond itself. So the chanting has music involved with it. But you're planting seeds that take root in the deepest place inside of you. It's a whole other thing. And at first, you kind of, you know, we don't necessarily connect that joyful feeling we have when we're chanting with the practice, even though we know we're doing it. We don't necessarily realize we're actually planting more seeds of that kind of happiness when we're doing it. That kind of happiness is that break we get from all those horrible, negative, limiting thoughts we have about ourselves. And usually we're just telling stories to ourselves all day about who we are. And those are not usually very happy stories for most of us. There's a lot of stuff we have to work through. So the chanting, because it's a very powerful moment with the music and a group, and they're chanting these names, these mantras, we get a little break from that, and it gets happy. It's not just sing along with Krish, you know. It's different. It's so. And each of us, as we do this practice, we will definitely feel a change in ourselves and the way we inhabit our lives. How we go through the day will change because we're developing a tool, a way to deal with things that carries over. Every time you're singing, every time you're chanting, part of your question is this. My job when I'm chanting is to pay attention. It's not to be ecstatic. It's not to be blissful. Those are just ideas. I got to get here first. Things will come, I'll feel good. Lots of things will happen, I'll feel bad. All things, but if I'm paying attention, my job is, and my practice is, to remember the name. The music helps us do that. But as soon as we notice we've been gone for 20 minutes, we come back to the name, to the repetition of the name. And that coming back is actually the seed planting itself. Otherwise, once we're gone, why would we ever come back? You turn on the television and all of a sudden it's next life, you know? Why do we ever come back? Because we do live in there. And it's our thoughts that takes us away all the time. So we find a method and a practice and a way to keep bringing ourselves back and deepening that feeling of being here. And it also stretches the glue that sticks us to those thoughts. And finally, that gets thinner and more more whatever, and then it breaks, and then you're no longer attached to you're thinking the same way. This comes through practice, but you won't do the practice until you actually understand a little bit about how it works and why it works, because we're not used to feeling good for no reason, you know? We're used to doing something to get pleasure, but this isn't that kind of pleasure. Or doing something to avoid pain, but that's not this kind of thing. Where this is something that's neither positive nor negative in the regular sense of the word. It's deeper than that. You're deeper inside, behind your eyes. It's not the stuff we see out here. And so the name is always going on inside of us. That's what they say. So what we're actually doing is moving ourselves back into that place where that flow of awareness, love, peace, truth is always there. And that's how the practice works. Little by little, little by little. I don't know, who would I want to sing with? You know, that's a good question. You know, I've sung to Maharaji, you know, and when I was singing to Maharaji in those days, with him physically present, I knew I was singing to God. I was in the presence of that love, and I was able to sing to it and feel its response, and sometimes have to duck when a banana was thrown, you know. That was the peak moment, you know, because you know, there's a great Indian musician who passed a couple of years ago named Sultan Khan, and he had a nickname for me. He played sarangi, which is the hardest instrument. He used to call me Mr. God. Mr. God.
Mr. God, that's cool.
We did a recording with him and me. We tried to make a recording of him to put out on our record label. And he came in the studio the first day and he sang for a while and then played for a while and then left. He came in the second day and he looked at me and said, "Okay, Mr. God, now you sing." And I said, "Excuse me? Concept, I don't sing in a room that you walked through 2 weeks ago. There's no way I'm singing." He said, "If you don't sing, I don't play." So we were screwed. Right. So I had to sing something. And he sang along with me and he played the sarangi with me. It was the most beautiful moment. So beautiful. That was a great moment. So I had that moment too, you know. I mean, I've really been lucky that way. But the best thing was, you know, singing, when I was singing to Maharaji, that's what I do now. I sing to Maharaji. He's just not physically present, but I feel his being. Because to me, he is that love. He is presence. He is, you know. And so that's my way of remembering that and going deeper into it every time. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing a duet with Bruce.
You know what? I thought that after I wrote the question, as in Springsteen.
Yeah.
Okay, I swear it to you, and when I wrote that...
He's an amazing guy, really. He's like the Bodhisattva of New Jersey. He embodies the life of all those people, you know, and he lifts it up. It's a beautiful thing. He gives it a context It's not just an endless struggle with no joy, you know. He puts it in a context that there's a way to find that, you know, whatever that is. It's such a beautiful thing. I saw him on this last tour, the River Tour in Brooklyn, the day after Prince died. He came out. The stage was all purple, but we didn't think anything of it. He came out with a band and went right into Purple Rain. It's beautiful.
I don't know if you're going to believe me, but Prince is also in my...
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I received the email and, you know, the opportunity to sit with you, you know, it was amazing. And I heard you years ago, I told you this before, I took my son to an event that you were playing at, so it's probably like 14 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And then I got away from it, and then a couple of years ago, someone said, oh, New Year's Eve, are you coming to sing the Chalisa? And I'm like, where? And Nina was singing, and that just blew me away, and people couldn't believe I sat there the whole day. And I'm like, they're like, what, are you crazy? And then, and then you were introduced, and it's just amazing that I can listen to both of you performing that piece. And I'm like, how come I'm not tired of this? Like,
it's good. Chalisa is very deep. Maharaji gave us that. The Hanuman Chalisa, Maharaji, he created this whole situation where we learned the Chalisa so we could hang out with him more, because we knew he liked to hear it. And if we Westerners learned it, we knew and it worked just like that. He would call all the Westerners to sing the Chalisa, and we get to spend more time with them. But he showed us that this was a way to get right there with him, you know, and still. And he said he said every line of the Chalisa is what they call Mahamantra. Mahamantra means the great mantra, the names of God. There's only one good thing, therefore, is finding that within. They can't help you become president of the United States. They can't help your hair straighten. They can't help you grow 3 inches. All they do is to make you happy. You know, it's a weird thing, and it doesn't make your hair grow anymore, as you can tell. So all they do is bring you true peace and true happiness and show you who you are. That's why they're called. But he said Hanuman Chalisa is Mahamantra, and very powerful. He even said, I don't say this that often because it's easily mistaken, but he said, chanting the Hanuman Chalisa can change fate. So if you think of your life as a river, and there might be some rocks downstream that you don't know of yet, right? Those rocks can be removed. You don't have to know, because you're aligning yourself with that presence. You're immersing yourself in that, in the flow of the name. And every time you do that, there has to be good effects, because there's no negativity associated with the name itself. People use it for all kinds of things, just like everything else, for their ego, their pride, all kinds of things. That's not the fault of the name, that's the fault of the people. There's nothing negative about the name. There's nothing to be afraid of in the chanting of the name. No negativity arises from it. It's pure, totally sattvic, pure, healthy, and truth-revealing, reality-revealing situation. So he used to say that it can change fate. But once again, if you do it to change fate, you don't even know. You can't do it that way. You have to do it with an open heart and be in the present moment and wholeheartedly, whatever it is. That doesn't mean creating any kind of experience. If you go into a situation and look for a type of experience, you're not going to get it. You're going to be too busy evaluating, stuck in evaluating mind. If you turn all that off and just sing, lots of things happen. But the idea is to keep letting them go through. Otherwise, you stop the flow. And the main thing is that through doing all these practices, everything comes from within. Everything you need to know comes from within. Nothing has to be told to you on the outside. It's the people. Maharaji said, people come already taught by God. Then he said, anybody who poses as a teacher does so for the sake of their own ego. Right. That's why we're having tea. Nothing happened here.
That's great. How much? Well, how much do you think your music you're really connecting this tie between? So I've noticed there's this tie between sorrow and joy. It's a very distinct connection, right?
Longing.
Longing.
Longing. Yeah, that's the key.
You know, when I see you play, see you do your practice, I'm amazed at how quickly the tears show up.
Yeah.
And how much it taps into some of my own struggles and how much I face some of my sorrows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also amazed at how hard it is for me to not get up at certain times as the music builds, to not get up and spin around in a circle in total joy, a feeling of total elation.
Can
right?
do.
And I've done it, maybe in the back, but I've done it. So I find it to be a really interesting line or balance between sorrow and joy.
Yeah. The longing. Longing is the thing. Longing is how human beings experience being pulled within by God, by our own hearts. We experience that as a longing for something or someone or some feeling. But that's what keeps us moving. That longing, may that longing never go away until there's no one to feel it anymore. Because that's what keeps us recognizing that we're caught here, this is not enough, I have to go deeper, I have to find something more real, more lasting. It's that longing. We all want that. That's our hearts talking to us. And you said about Prince, the thing about music and musicians, really good musicians and anybody who's really dedicated to music finds it very easy to enter into that music land. And traditionally musicians have terrible relationships because it's so easy for them to go away that things get tough, okay, I'll just play, So you see Prince, what a musician, right? And he was also a seeker. He was a very deep guy. But there was some part of him that couldn't take care of himself well enough. Somehow he didn't include himself in what had to be taken care of and nurtured. And because of his pain, whatever, he had that terrible pain in his hips, I think, so he got strung out on the painkillers. That's not taking care of yourself. That's not spiritual. Even though he was a Jehovah's Witness, he couldn't have meat in his house, nothing like that, There were so many things he was trying to do. But because of being born in the West, we're like, we don't recognize that. Buddha said, you can search the whole universe and you'll never find anyone more deserving of love and compassion than yourself. So it's subtle. It's not easy for Westerners to recognize what that means. We do things that hurt ourselves, and we think we're doing the best we can, but we don't have that understanding. So musicians, they can go into music world, music land, but they don't know how to deal with this stuff down here. And this is where the pain comes from. You can go into those bliss realms, but they don't last. Nothing like that lasts. Everything changes.
So I have a question, because you were in the music world before this. Did you feel like a certain amount of isolation once you went to India and your life started to change?
Praise the Lord. Isolation my ass. I was gone. I'm never coming back to America. I left everything, I gave everything away, sold my guitar, my car, gave my jeans away, everything. I was gone. I really left. I couldn't handle living here. There was too much pain for me. And I was never going to come back. And I would not have come back unless Maharaji looked at me one day and said, go back. Get out of here. What are you doing here? Go home. He sent me home. And I said, I'm just learning Hindi. Too bad. Go. I didn't want to deal with my stuff. I wanted to be in India. This I could do. I could walk around like an Indian and look holy and, fool myself. But there was all this stuff inside that was not getting worked on. And You have attachment in America. You go back. That's why I'm here. Otherwise, I would have never come back. So, but what were you talking? Was that what you mean about isolation, or from other
Well,
people? And
Man, I feel like since my practice and everything has just changed, I feel like I'm very happy with how things are moving away from me. And I feel like it's most of the stuff, like I've actually become a better listener. And I don't know if it's because I'm sitting and listening, like either I'm sitting silently or I'm listening and trying to learn the Chalisa, which is very difficult.
don't have
But
to memorize it. Just keep doing it. After you've done it a million times, it'll come easy.
I actually started writing it, so. But I feel like now with the path that I'm going down, I just see a lot of people falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
So you're saying about Prince,
good.
I think people in that career, in that profession, they have people pulling at them and wanting from them.
They get locked into it.
I've
But
been
there's a
trade
difference
places.
between aloneness and feeling alone and loneliness. We're all, each one of us walks our own path. We're all alone. But we can be alone together. But loneliness is something else. Loneliness is wanting something from something or someone, which is very human, very reasonable, or unreasonable, as the case may be. But that's human. That's what we do. So you recognize that difference. You can feel good being alone if you're not lonely. Being alone is where we are. Everybody's a little pool that the moonlight is reflected in. We're each individual pools, but it's the same light reflected. So we're together in that place, even though we're separate, appearing separate on this planet, on the earth. We appear like different people, but it's the same light within us that's the same. And you have to go in through there. You can't go in through another person's pool. So, but when you get in through there, then you're everywhere. And then you're everybody. And that's who Maharaji is. Everyone, no difference. He lives in everyone as the indwelling presence in the heart. The indweller, antaryami, they call it in Hindi. The indwelling presence.
And
Antaryami. Antaryami. That's the name of Nita's CD. So, and the chanting, you have to do that. Nobody can do that for you. Nobody can sit for you. Nobody can take care of you except you. That's the aloneness. The loneliness is left over from the personal, emotional life that we've been living. And that's, you have to kind of live with that for a while until it turns over. But it does transform itself. But in this culture, it's very hard to recognize that because nobody around us, so few people are actually engaged in trying to transform that loneliness in a real way. They're just trying to paste somebody to their side so they won't be lonely. But it doesn't work.
I'm thoroughly enjoying my time, especially alone.
May it always be so. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care.